So this is not what I wanted to do on a Sunday. Yesterday I put a new steering wheel hub in. It's a shorter one. You see how close that is to that. So I actually fit really good in the car now, which is exciting. But while I was working on the car, I decided that for a while now my alternator has been whining. So it's just a bad bearing in the alternator. The alternator works, it charges everything. It doesn't get up above 14 volts. It only gets to like 13.6, 13.7. But most alternators, when you buy them, they say as long as it's putting out above 13.5 volts, it's good. So it was a good alternator. And now I decided I should probably just swap it out because the bearings failing. I don't want to end up on the side of the road with a bad alternator. And so we have a bunch of spare alternators. I mean, we got 1, 2, 3. We currently have three E36s at the shop, and we've had other ones be parted out. Got a bunch of spare motors and stuff too, so like not a big deal to get an alternator. There's an alternator on the sedan that's at the shop, and I put that alternator on that car when our buddy Orion was going to borrow the car for a drift event. And that was one of the only things keeping the car from staying running, was it needed an alternator. So I put my spare alternator in that car. I had been driving around with the spare alternator in the trunk of this car, just so if the one that's in the car fails, I have one to just throw in. It only takes like 20 to 30 minutes to put the alternator in, so wasn't really too concerned about it failing and having to replace it. But come to yesterday, I decided to do excuse me, the preventative thing and just replace it before it fails. Now, I didn't have my spare alternator because it was in the other sedan, so I was just going to take the alternator off of the turbo motor that I just put together. So that wasn't going to be a big deal. It's already mostly apart. It's not in a car. Super easy, 2 bolts to take off. The wiring wasn't even connected or anything, so I thought I was in the clear. I installed it in the car, and from sitting for so long, the bearing was definitely seized a little bit. I got the alternator spinning, and it worked. It actually put out 14 volts, and then I started putting everything away. Put all my tools away, put all the parts away, closed up the shop, everything locked up, and then I go and get in the car, and it's suddenly down to 13.2 volts, which is not above the 13.5 volts that is recommended for the alternators to be producing. So that alternator failed within a matter of being in the car for 2 minutes. Kind of unfortunate, but the car was still running, so I had to make the thought: do I drive home? I have a half an hour drive home, or do I take this alternator out and go take the alternator out of the other sedan and then take that alternator and put it in my sedan, since that was originally what that alternator was going to do. It was going to replace the alternator in my car. So that's what I did. Instead of getting stranded on the side of the road with a failed alternator, I took it out of the black sedan and put it into my wide body sedan. And I thought everything was going to be fine. And well, as you can see, the pulleys are exactly the same. But when I put the alternator on and put the belt on, I realized that half of the belt, or not half the belt, but some of the belt was, as you see how cleaned off this ridge is, some of the belt was riding on this ridge. It was like here and came to like here. It didn't go all the way forward. And so I was like, okay, cool. I have a belt alignment issue. But when you look at the rest of my pulleys, everything was in line. You know, there was nothing out of line. So I tried to run it, as you can see by the belt being torn here. See, it ripped one of the ribs off of the belt. Which I figured would be fine, you know. It's instead of riding on the full pulley, it was riding like this. So I still had belt on the pulley, but there was some of the belt was riding on the edge here, or actually it was the other way. So it was like that. So where the belt was supposed to be is like riding up here. Like this is where my stock pulleys are, and that's where the other one ended up. And I was like, yo, that's so weird. It came off of an E36 motor. Why is it why is the belt spacing so different? I never knew that there was any different like spacings, because if you space that out, you have to space the crank out. And if you space the crank out, you got to space the power steering. And that's when it hit me. It bolts to the same housing as the power steering pump. And I thought, oh, maybe it's a M52 versus M50. But that couldn't be. The alternator that I took off of the turbo M52 motor that we're putting together, it lined up. It lined up fine. So how come this one, which was on an E36, running and driving, how come this one, the alternator pulley spacing is different? And what I found is it's something I've never seen before, but I'd imagine it has to do with the M50 versus M52. Like early model, late model type of thing maybe. But this is the alternator that came off of the turbo motor. And as you can see, where the pulley sits is recessed into the housing, so it falls into place. Now, I thought that I was going to be able to get away with just swapping the pulleys. That's why it's all like this. Because looking down at it, you know, you can't, you see how small that is. And then this is the one that was on the car that destroyed my belt. Look at how far out it sticks. So there is a washer of some sort that spaces out the pulley. And I don't know why it is. It looks like it's a washer. Like you can see, oops, I'm trying not to drop stuff. Let's see if I can get it to, like you can see like the outline where it's, you know, just it's seized onto this shaft. I was trying to get underneath it a little bit to like pop it out, because I feel like if I can get that washer and I can get the pulley to recess into the housing like it's supposed to, it would work. But I drove home, so I don't have all of the stuff that I need. I don't have all of the tools and stuff that I need. I literally just have the tools to remove and install an alternator. So I may take this alternator up to Liddy's and see if we can pop this washer off. If we can't pop the washer off, I did already purchase another, well, I purchased a brand new alternator. I had always wanted to upgrade from, these are both 80 amp alternators. And from the factory, these cars come with either an 80 amp or 140 amp. And since I do have the two subs and like my gauges and like the aftermarket radio and just shit like that, I just wanted to make sure that I, have enough power recharging the battery and whatnot. So I did upgrade to 140 amp alternator. I'm just waiting for that to be delivered to the parts store, which, as you can tell by my car being apart right now, is a little bit unfortunate. I couldn't find one that was in stock without having to drive like an hour away or like 45 minutes away, and I just didn't want to drive that far with my belt looking like this. It was actually to a point where at idle it was fine. It ran good, no squeaking or anything, but as soon as it was under any load, or if I was giving it any sort of throttle, even not under load, just like free revving, it was the belt was squealing. So judging by this pulley, you can see that the belt was, oh, come on, focus. Yeah, there we go. You can see that the belt was, polishing the pulley. So I made the drive home last night. I didn't want to risk driving to the parts store and getting stranded at, or not stranded at the parts store, because obviously I could fix the car at the parts store. But I didn't want to risk getting stranded on the side of the road on my way to the parts store, because then that would be a whole debacle. But yeah, so I took this out I noticed this last night while trying to swap the pulleys, but I couldn't do this on the side of the road. I was actually in a Cumberland Farms parking lot. At first, I just put it on and I didn't even notice really that the belt was so far out of line. What I did was I lined it up with the power steering and I lined it up with the alternator, and everything was in line. The belt was on all of the grooves. And then after I ran it for a minute or two, that is when it decided to pop up over this lip on the inside. And when it popped over the lip, it chewed off a rib or two of the belt. And after chewing off a rib or two of the belt, it the belt actually it flung the belt. The belt came off completely, and that was when I was passing Cumberland Farms. So obviously the battery light came on, the battery's not charging, I lost power steering, and so I stopped real quick, threw the hazards on, threw it in reverse, backed up, turned around and went the other way, and just pulled into the what's it called, Cumberland Farms parking lot. In the Cumberland Farms parking lot, I removed this alternator, didn't take it out of the car completely, but just let it sit in the engine bay, like literally exactly like this. Took my gun, zapped the pulley off. This one was in my back seat. I zapped the pulley off of this one. I just wanted to take the pulley off of it. But when I removed it, I realized that the pulleys were exactly the same size and that there wasn't going to be anything that I could do quickly to fix it. So what I did was, as you can see, the belt is pretty thin. I cut 2 ribs off of it. So I cut 2 ribs off of it, and what my goal was for that is, if I cut the ribs that are hanging over the edge here, yes, the belt will be smaller. It's only going to be 1, 2, 3 ribs, but it will be on the pulley itself. And that's how I made it home last night. I trimmed the belt down so that it wasn't falling over the pulley and that it was just staying in the ribs. Obviously, not ideal. The belt wasn't gripping as much as it should have been with the ribs cut off of it. So that's how I made it home last night. And today I get to see, that's how wide the belt is supposed to be. So that's how wide the belt is supposed to be. And I just cut a rib or two off of it so that it would just fit in the ribs and stay on the pulley and not throw itself again. So that's how I made it home. I basically cut the belt in 2/3 and it was gentle. That was it. I just didn't overdo the throttle. I wasn't, you know, flooring it every second that I could. I was just trying to make it home. Obviously I made it. And now I'm in the predicament of I have to drive the car to either pick up the part and then either swap the part in the parking lot or risk driving the car more. So cars, they're such a pain, man. It's literally never ending. But who has seen that before? Like, honestly, like, where? I've never seen this before. And what is so different about this car, the car that this alternator came off of, that this worked and this wouldn't have? I don't know. I really don't know, and I'm kind of confused. I know it has a different tensioner on it. It's got a different tensioner. It doesn't have a hydraulic tensioner. It's a mechanical tensioner. So that could be one thing. It also has an M52 oil filter housing instead of an M50 oil filter housing. But that's where it blows my mind, is this one came off of an M52 and this one came off of an M52. So why does this one have a washer and this one doesn't have a washer? And it's not just like a thin little washer. It's like, you see how deep that goes? This sticks out. So it's a thick washer. It actually makes it stick out quite a bit. So, like, I don't know. I'm at a loss. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my e-bike. I'm gonna ride my e-bike to the parts store, go pick up the alternator. I'm going to, this one doesn't work. I mean, it works, but it doesn't work as good as this one. It only puts out like 13.5, or not even 13.5 volts. It was putting out 13 volts. So I'm going to give this one as the core exchange. So I'll throw this in my little basket and bring this one and give this one back to the parts store. And then I will take this one and bring it back to the shop and put it back on the car. I just don't know why it has that washer on it. It's just so strange to me that it has that washer on it. Because if I could get that washer off, I'd be able to just use the factory pulley and it'd be fine. But since I can't get that off, the my belt is completely out of line. Like, the pulley spacing is so off. I don't know. I got to do some research and see like what the difference is there. I wonder if it has to do with because this one came off of a B28 and this one came off of a B25. I wonder if that's the difference, but I don't know. That's where I'm at right now. Looks good though. I can't wait to get the new alternator in so I can actually test the drivetrain. Because I was worried that, you know, if I bounce it off the rev limiter or if I'm like clutch kicking or something like that, that's putting stress on the belt system. So I didn't want to potentially fling the belt while obviously it was squealing the whole drive home. So I didn't want to make the belt fall off by testing the car, but the car feels much better. I got rid of the stock rubber bushings, and I actually think I actually don't think it was my rubber bushings that was causing the problem. I found that one of my solid motor mounts had either backed off or had not gotten tightened again after what was the last thing I did? When I did the clutch in the car, I think I might have forgotten to tighten one of my motor mounts, and it was the top. So I think my motor was rotating a little bit, causing my drivetrain to be out of alignment, causing the wobble that I was feeling. Could have very well been the soft rubber transmission bushings as well, but we'll see. I did put poly bushings in the trans. It feels like a race car again. I don't love it, but if I have to deal with a little bit of vibrations to make sure that the car is going to stay together, I can do that. That's not a big deal. So I'm just hanging out now. Me and Sunshine are just gonna chill out, eat some breakfast, hang out. I just gotta wait until O'Reilly's delivers my new alternator, and then hopefully that alternator it's the right one, because this whole giant washer thing and not being able to get the washer off it's really throwing me for a loop. But hope you all had a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.